I'm going to talk to you about 5 books about Palestine that you should buy this holiday season. In this video, I'm not going to go into too much depth about the books because most of these books I've already spoken about at much greater depth in other videos. Those videos are going to be linked down below in a playlist for you to check out. Without further ado, number 1, The 100 Years' War on Palestine by Rashid Khalidi. This book is one that's really gotten the attention of people when we're talking about what's happening in Palestine recently. It's a book that a lot of really big creators, both from a academic standpoint and a booktube standpoint, academic standpoint, are talking about this book. You got great creators like Sim Kern who are going to be talking to the author themselves about the book, about the work. It's definitely a must-read book when it comes to learning about Palestine. Number 2 is The Israel Lobby. This book was very controversial when it first came out because people were like, well, you're just playing into the harmful stereotype, and it is a very harmful stereotype, that Jewish people control the world. But this year, when we've seen American politicians be extremely blasé and open about how they are legitimately influenced by pro-Israeli lobbies, they're talking about it in the same way they talk about being influenced by gun lobbies, like it's general knowledge. It's, you know, now a very good time for you to be reading this book because it's less of a stigma around it, because you've just got American politicians openly saying, yes, we are influenced by AIPAC and other such lobbies when it comes to making our policies. Number 3 is Palestine by Joe Sacco. I'm always advocating for this book. My most recent video was a very short discussion about this book. This book is one which is very, very good to get someone to initially understand the suffering of the Palestinian people. Set in the First Intifada, at the very end of it, it's Sacco, who is a person that went into learning about Israel and Palestine from a very I don't know what's going on, slightly more Israel centric view, to becoming an advocate for the Palestinian people. So Palestine by Joe Sacco is one that I think is an absolute must get, and because it's a graphic novel, it is a little bit more easier to get into. Number 4 is The Palestine Laboratory. Again, another book where I've dedicated half a video just to this book, so go check out that video if you want a more in-depth explanation of the book. But this book is slightly more academic, and also just from a reading standpoint more, for lack of a better word, gruesome, so it's a harder read. So maybe don't give this to someone as their first book. But if you're someone who knows something about Palestine but wants to kind of learn the more malicious side of what is happening to the Palestinian people, this is definitely a book for you to buy or to get for someone to learn more about. And 5th, and definitely not least, is Edward Said's Orientalism. This book has been banned around by everyone saying you must read Orientalism, you must read Orientalism, and yeah, I think you definitely should read Orientalism, and especially because it is a gateway to Said's other non-fiction works. He has 3 books which basically people consider to be the Palestine trilogy, where he addresses things about Palestine and around Palestine. One of the books he directly just talks about Palestine, but it's the good gateway into Said's non-fiction work. And again, it's a book where everyone says you must read this book, and I agree, you should read this book. And so those are the 5 books I would recommend to get about Palestine this holiday season. Obviously, there are so many more books I would recommend you read. I have other videos about those books. The link will be down below to a playlist of all my books about Palestine. Also, there will be a link to all the books down below, so if you want to get them from there, you can. If you can, try and get them from a local bookstore or a library, to be honest. So I hope this is going to be informative for you. Again, there are many, many more books you can get. I would highly recommend you get those. I love the books that I talk about elsewhere. This is just mostly non-fiction books, so there are lots of fiction books set in Palestine or by Palestinian authors that I would also recommend. Maybe I'll make a video on that next week if there's positive feedback to this video. But if you can, educate yourself about Palestine, keep talking about Palestine, donate where you can, go to protests where you can, and I encourage you to just give your all to this cause and all causes to help us people who are suffering in this world.